Hey Matt, or TechPepsi. Thanks for responding to some of the questions that I posed in my last video response to you. I appreciate you taking the time to answer those. You asked what movies I've been able to watch lately. I haven't been keeping up much with movies lately. That is to say, I haven't seen or had any really strong desire to see recently released films. Um, I'd like to see Hugo, but just because Christopher Lee's in it. Um, I might see The Artist, but I don't know. I've heard that one looks good, but the story isn't anything remarkable. With movies, I spend a lot of time hunting down old, obscure, like cult movies or documentaries about eccentric people. A couple of documentaries I watched last week are Bobby Fischer Against the World, which is about the former world chess champion. It's fascinating. And Superheroes, which was about real-life superheroes. Both of them were very, very good. Last night I fell asleep watching The Satanic Rites of Dracula, starring Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing, and that was on an Elvira's Movie Macabre DVD 2-pack that I have. I love the horror host format, and to me she's the best, and not just because of her boobs either. She's pretty funny, she's pretty talented. I like the setup, and yeah, just longtime fan of her. I also liked the Ghoul. While we're talking about horror hosts, he was kind of like Metro Detroit, Northern Ohio, back in the 80s and early 90s. Sir Graves Ghastly is another notable horror host, but he was before my time. I've just seen clips of his show. I fell asleep watching Ed Wood a couple of nights ago. I always put on a DVD and turn the volume down really low as I'm tucking in. It's just a thing I started doing a few months ago, and now it's part of my cozy end of the night routine. Some other movies I've seen lately. I revisited Judge Dredd, starring Sylvester Stallone and Armand Assante and Diane Lane and Rob Schneider. That was fun. They crammed a lot of stuff into a fairly short movie. I mean, they had prisoner escapes, chase scenes on hovering futuristic motorcycles, giant killer robots, clones, a whole trial. Granted, trials went by pretty quick in the future that Judge Dredd takes place, and most of them just ended with people being blown to shit on the streets by the judges, Yeah, that movie had a lot of stuff in it, and then it just had Rob Schneider there for no good reason at all. I enjoyed it immensely, but then again, I've always been a sucker for science fiction movies about dystopian future societies. When Judge Dredd ended, I realized something. I could watch that movie, and I'm really, really, really ashamed to admit this, but being ashamed of myself hasn't prevented me from putting myself out there for the internet before. So I realized as Judge Dredd ended that is one of the very, very few movies that I could watch at least once every week for the rest of my life. Seriously. I don't know what that says about me, but it's true. I could watch that at least once a week, every week for the rest of my life, however long that's going to be. I don't know how long I'm going to live. Another movie that I could do that with would be The Shadow, starring Alec Baldwin, John Lone, and Penelope Ann Miller. That's a film adaptation of the popular radio show that ran from the 1930s into the 1950s, and the pulp magazines that they published about that character as well. Again, another wacky movie that they crammed a lot of stuff into a running time of like 90 some odd minutes. I started watching The Running Man earlier. You ever see that one? That's a weird one. Really, that's about as weird as movies get. It's directed by one half of Starsky and Hutch, the original Starsky and Hutch. It stars Arnold Schwarzenegger. The bad guy is the former host of Family Feud, Richard Dawson. He was also on Hogan's Heroes. Another bad guy in it is former WWF Tag Team Champion Professor Toru Tanaka. Jesse Ventura's in it. Mick Fleetwood, the drummer for Fleetwood Mac, he's in it. And so is Frank Zappa's kid, Dweezil. That's another fun one. The book by Stephen King. It's by Stephen King, but it was published under the pseudonym of Richard Bachman. Kicks ass. I read it years ago, and I couldn't put it down. Finished it in a few hours. It's a short one. It's so good. I highly recommend it. I haven't done nearly as much reading as I would have liked. With regard to reading, I started out this year pretty strong. I read 4 books in January, and then in early February I'd begun reading The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde, and I've absolutely loved it so far. But I got halfway through, put it down, didn't pick it up the following night for whatever reason, I don't remember, and I've only been reading it one chapter at a time ever since, so I haven't finished that one. I hate that I do that, but I do that. I need to finish a book quickly, or I'll just end up devoting my time to other things and draw out the whole process of reading the novel or biography or whatever it is that I'm reading. And the only other thing I've been reading is American Splendor, the comic book series by the late, great Harvey P. Carr. I've been reading issue number 7, the big divorce issue of his original series, and that's been wonderful. I'm a big fan of Harvey's work. You asked about what kinds of fast food chains are popular here where I live in Michigan. Well, we have a lot of the ones that have been popular all over the United States for a long time now. We've got Taco Bell, Burger King, McDonald's, Subway, KFC, Wendy's, Pizza Hut, Domino's, Little Caesars Pizza, Panda Express, Buffalo Wild Wings, Red Lobster, TGI Fridays, Applebee's, Bennigan's. You used to be able to find a few of those, and I loved them. I especially loved their chicken strips with the honey Dijon dipping sauce. Holy fuck, that was good stuff. But a bunch of those closed down, and now they're pretty hard to find. There's one left that I know of, but it's like a 45-minute drive from my house. Del Taco and Sonic are a couple of popular chains that have finally made their way into Michigan. Some of the places that we have that you can't find in very many states, at least you couldn't the last time I checked, are Potbelly Sandwich Works. They make really good sandwiches, especially their meatball sandwich. And they toast them like Subway gives you the option of, or Quiznos. That's another sandwich shop that we have. Another one is White Castle Hamburgers. Those used to be pretty hard to find. I don't know if they're popping up all over the place now because a lot more people know about White Castle these days because of the Harold and Kumar movie. Thank you for the recommendation of No Holds Barred radio. I'd never heard of it before. I'll have to check it out. Yeah, I have to admit, the second you mentioned No Holds Barred, I thought of the movie I grew up with, starring Hulk Hogan. But yeah, thanks again for responding to my questions, and I hope you're doing well, Matt.